Prince Andrew has given up all his royal titles as more allegations emerge relating to his ties to child sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. This comes ahead of the posthumous publication of a memoir tomorrow by Virginia Giuffre, who said she was trafficked by Epstein at the age of 16 and then, at age 17, forced to have sex with the prince on 3 different occasions. Giuffre wrote in the memoir that she was worried she would die as a sex slave to Epstein and his associates. Prince Andrew has repeatedly denied the allegations against him. This is what he said in his recent statement. In discussion with the King and my immediate and wider family, we have concluded the continued accusations about me distract from the work of His Majesty and the royal family. I have decided, as I always have, to put my duty to my family and country first. I stand by my decision 5 years ago to stand back from public life. With His Majesty's agreement, we feel I must now go a step further. I will therefore no longer use my title or the honours which have been conferred upon me. As I have said previously, I vigorously deny the accusations against me. Gloria Allred, a lawyer representing Epstein's victims, gave her views on the prince's statement to Sky News.
I suppose my first question is, I assume that you welcome this decision to remove these royal titles?
Well, I think so. It's not everything in terms of a measure of justice. It's some consequence. It's very disturbing that the reason given is that somehow it's a distraction. The idea that Jeffrey Epstein, for example, victimized children, molested children, sex trafficked children, and Virginia Giuffre's allegations are just a distraction that will continue, I think is an insult, frankly, to victims, because really what it's saying is it's continued bad PR for the monarchy. Well, what about the victims?
It looks like the prince's statement was meant to get ahead of reports in the Mail on Sunday and the Sunday Telegraph. In those, he's accused of asking the Met Police to help him dig up dirt on Giuffre in 2011. The reports say that the prince handed over Giuffre's date of birth and social security number to his police protection officer and asked them to find incriminating information about her. The Met says it's looking into the claims. But that's not all King Charles has to worry about. A spokesperson has told reporters the palace is bracing for, quote, more days of pain this week. That will involve dealing with the fallout of yet another allegation. This one about Sarah Ferguson, the prince's, i.e. Prince Andrew's, ex-wife and current housemate, visiting Epstein after he got out of prison. Epstein reportedly wrote an email to his lawyer in the UK, Paul Tweed, claiming that Ferguson and her daughters came to see him and that she, quote, was the first to celebrate his release. In that email, the sex trafficker seemed upset about an interview Ferguson gave a month earlier to the Evening Standard. In it, she apologised for accepting £15,000 from Epstein to help her pay off her debts. She said, "A terrible, terrible error of judgment was made by having anything to do with Jeffrey Epstein. What he did was wrong, and for which he was rightly jailed." Epstein told his lawyer, however, that then Duchess of York should come out and say she was misquoted. He added, "She was the first to celebrate my release with her 2 daughters in tow. She visited me with a policeman sitting at my front desk. She has asked for help with her charities." Helena, obviously, Prince Andrew still gets to call himself a prince because he was the son of a reigning monarch. But do you think that the abdication of titles like the Duke of York is going to do anything in terms of the public heat he's attracting for the allegations that he raped Virginia Giuffre when she was being trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein?
I don't think, again, it will do anything to help, really. I mean, fundamentally, I think it will overwhelmingly increase people's opinion of the monarchy, who are previous monarchy, who are existing monarchists, I guess, who had their relationship turned sour because of his allegations. It will, I guess, in their mind, kind of clean the monarchy of the association of Prince Andrew, because it's about the title, it's about the prestige that surrounds the monarchy that a lot of people who are monarchists are attracted to, or at least kind of the fans of the royals, right? But in terms of the broader population, I don't think they're really concerned necessarily about the titles or his relationships to the monarchs, because most people actually don't think really care about the royal family hugely in that regard. The concerns that people are going to have, and I think the concerns that they are right to have, is about the level to which the people in positions of power, whether they are, aristocratic or from the royal family, or whether they are political or anything like that, the level of power that these people have had for so long, to have been able to get away like these things for so long, and to get away with these things for so long, and to feel like they were completely invincible and above scrutiny, to the point at which that it's only just now that these things are coming out in the wake of what we're seeing overseas, is the real damning indictment here. I mean, we saw the most obvious example of the way in which people feel like that they are unable to be hurt by these allegations, or unable to be hurt by their links to Jeffrey Epstein, insofar as Keir Starmer didn't even think twice, or at least Morgan McSweeney didn't think twice, about appointing Peter Mandelson, who was self-proclaimed the best pal of Jeffrey Epstein, to a position of incredibly office, like being the ambassador to the United States, right? People genuinely had this kind of feeling that they were untouchable for so long because of the privilege and the shield that they had around it, insofar as they're still spending time conversing with Jeffrey Epstein after the conviction of him had been secured. And it's this one rule for them and one rule for everybody else that we continue to get examples of in politics that people are really, really sick of. And that's fundamental. And it doesn't just talk about like kind of cultural institutions or cultural problems. It's obviously an economic problem as well. And that's what people see in terms of both obviously people in part of the monarchy and the royal family, or indeed people who are in politically or in terms of the media class, who haven't been held to the same standards as everybody else would. It fundamentally runs through so much of our politics. And whilst I think that plenty of countries have this problem, it's very unique to the UK because of our incredibly long and storied and big history of having a real kind of stratification by class in this country, where it's never been the case that people from lower classes are held to lower standards than those from higher classes, and that's been reversed for a very, very long time. So we do have a really big problem in the UK very specifically because of that class system. And fundamentally, I think as people on the left, we want to break that thing down. And I think that pointing out that it goes through all the echelons of kind of the upper caste of society, that we're seeing all these problems in terms of them feeling untouchable and not being held to that same standard, we can really use that to appeal to people for greater equality and a greater degree to which people are treated on principle rather than on status, which is with which the opposite of this is currently the status quo in this country.
I want to ask you a question and see what you make of it. And really, it's about the kind of impact that Virginia Giuffre's posthumous memoir might have. There is this sort of prurient fascination, I think, in terms of combing over the details of the sexual abuse that she endured. What's the difference between a media culture which is digging into those details because there is a horrible kind of thrill about it, and in a media culture which is taking those details seriously because the people who participated in her abuse need to be held to account?
I mean, I certainly think it's more likely the former than the latter. I mean, we fundamentally have always had in this country a media ecosystem that obviously, especially in an online era where AdSense revenue is what pays the bills, you have to engage in whatever is the most kind of clickbaity story. And you have to engage in the most kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? The most kind of startling of revelations to get people to interact with your media organization. Because if you don't get the clicks, you don't generate the revenue and you can't pay the bills. So I certainly think it is far more likely that it's about trying to chase these kind of stories for the ability to be able to get eyeballs on the website or watching whatever kind of media output that you're doing, that it is actually taking the concerns of women and girls seriously. Like, this reminds me indeed of the way in which we discuss trans people in this country, insofar as it's become a frivolous way for media organizations to be able to generate clicks by finding a cause of people to link to their reporting or to their media organization, than it is about the actual safety of women and girls. When the reality in this country is that rape is basically de facto legal. In the last parliament, we had Rishi Sunak stand up at the dispatch box and talk about the fact that they'd increased the conviction rate for rape in this country. And it had gone up by like 1% from 1.5% to 3%. Like, there are some real concerns that women and girls have in this country. And scandal, it makes a lot of headlines. Scandal is very easy to report on. Scandal gives people a lot of things that can be talked about over the water cooler. It can be a really good way of engaging people who are in the broader public to interact with news. But the broader statistics of what life is like for women in this country and across the world, I mean, I'm not saying that we are in any way as bad as some other places, but it's still a big problem, violence against women and girls. And the kind of things that happen to people like Virginia Giuffre is not taken seriously enough in terms of what we're actually going to do in terms of policy to sort those problems, have a material change, rather than talking about just how terrible all these things are that they're happening and doing nothing in terms of policy to tackle it. That's just my opinion.